I think this referendum lost some of its relevance because of the Russian war against Ukraine and Belarus' role in its invasion, because Russia's war and Belarus' participation in the war will have more impact on Belarus than changes in the constitution. That said, we shouldn't completely ignore the referendum. The most important change is that all Belarusians People's Assembly will have a constitutional status. It will have extensive powers in the future, and it can, for example, change the decisions of any of other state bodies. It can remove the president from the office. It will be able to investigate the legality of the elections. How this body is supposed to work, it's still not clear because it's not regulated by any laws.
65.2% of voters were in favor of the proposed amendments, with only 10% reportedly voting against it, in a turnout estimated at 78.6%. These results are to be taken carefully because referendums, just like many other consultations, electoral consultations in Belarus, are usually the result of electoral manipulations. Article 18 has been amended in a way that allows potentially Russia to station nuclear weapons on the territory of Belarus, whereas in the past that was not allowed. Paragraph 2 was added in that Article 18 that states that the Republic of Belarus excludes any military aggression from its territory against another state. And this very article has been violated, in fact, already before the constitution was even adopted, because we have some evidence, and allegations and maybe even evidence of a strong involvement of the Belarusian military in the current attack on Ukraine. There are even allegations that some Belarusian men, which have been called to the barracks, are in fact made to wear Russian uniforms for lack of domestic supply, which will again make it very difficult for the current investigations at international level to identify the true level of involvement of the Belarusian army in this conflict.
Lukashenko allowed Russian troops to use Belarusian territory and military infrastructure. Without Lukashenko, Russia would have less advantages than it currently has in its war against Ukraine. That is why it seems quite logical that Lukashenko is perceived as a coaggressor, and some of the Western sanctions that are introduced against Russia, they are also introduced against Belarus. And Belarus is paying a cost of Lukashenko's participation in this war, and definitely this cost will be huge.
What we could be witnessing is, in fact, the ultimate attempt by the Kremlin to subjugate Lukashenko and fully reintegrate Belarus quietly while all attention is on Ukraine. This rapprochement between Belarus and Russia has been going on for several months, but of course, with the current isolation of the Belarusian regime, and the fact that the economy of Belarus is extremely dependent on Russian subsidies and imports of crude oil notably, we can ask ourselves whether Belarus is maybe in the process of being absorbed fully. So the question now is to ask, how short is the leash on which the Kremlin is holding Mr. Lukashenko, and how much does he have left to bargain?
Chatham House Belarus Initiative conducted an opinion poll back in February, and then we asked people about their attitude towards then possible war, and data showed us that actually most Belarusians would like Belarus to be neutral, and participation in such a war would have had catastrophic consequences for Belarus, according to the majority of respondents. And around 1,000 of Belarusians were arrested for participating in peaceful protests against Russia's invasion, several Belarusians will receive long criminal sentences for the destruction of the railway infrastructure that is used by the Russian military. At the same time, with the current level of fear and repressions in Belarusian society, one shouldn't expect larger manifestations. If only Lukashenko will send Belarusian troops to fight against Ukraine, then larger protests seem to be more likely.
Hundreds of thousands of Belarusians have been running away from repression. As you know, there are more than 1,000 people being detained currently, political prisoners. Many people have gone in hiding, but many have gone in exile, including to Ukraine. At least 250,000 Belarusians have sought refuge in Ukraine. And these people are among those who are now trying to run away one more time. Most of the human rights defenders and dissidents are apparently in safety abroad by now. But what can raise some concerns is the situation of the Belarusians abroad, as there are reports about them being also now victims of discrimination and anti-Russian, anti-Belarusian hatred, hate speech, hate crimes, because they are affiliated with the aggressor. Meanwhile, one interesting element is that while general mobilization is underway, Belarusians have been called to the barracks by 9th of March, and therefore several conscripts are actually trying to run away. We have been seeing and are expecting more and more desertions, or people eventually, Belarusian soldiers, turning to the Ukrainian side. And this is likely to be strongly castigated by the military hierarchy.